Have you ever heard of the Battle of Karánsebes? The one where an army supposedly destroyed itself in a drunken, chaotic brawl. It sounds like something out of a comedy, a historical farce. But what if I told you the story you've heard is almost certainly a myth? A ghost story that has haunted the annals of history for over 2 centuries. Tonight, we're not just retelling a famous tale of military blunders. We're on a myth-busting mission. We will peel back the layers of legend to find the truth behind one of history's most bizarre and misunderstood events. What really happened on that dark night in September 1788? The answer is far more complex and fascinating than the legend itself. To understand the chaos of Karánsebes, we need to travel back to the late 18th century. Europe is a chessboard of shifting alliances and imperial ambitions. The once mighty Ottoman Empire is in decline, and 2 great powers, the Austrian Habsburg monarchy and the Russian Empire, see an opportunity. They join forces to push the Ottomans out of Europe once and for all. The Austrian army, a sprawling, multicultural force of over 100,000 soldiers, marches south towards the Danube River, the frontier of the conflict. This isn't a single, unified fighting force. It's a melting pot of Austrians, Hungarians, Serbs, Croats, and Romanians, each speaking their own language, each with their own loyalties. Leading them is the Holy Roman Emperor himself, Joseph II. He's an enlightened monarch, a reformer, but he's no military genius. His army is massive, but it's also unwieldy, plagued by disease and simmering with internal tensions. As they camp near the small town of Karánsebes in modern-day Romania, they are not a well-oiled machine of war. They are a powder keg, waiting for a spark. The night is September 21st, 1788. The main Austrian army is setting up camp. Ahead, a vanguard of Hussars light cavalry sent across the Timok River to scout for any sign of the Ottoman forces. They find nothing. No Turkish soldiers, no enemy in... But they do find something else. A group of local Romani traders selling barrels of schnapps, a potent local brandy. The Hussars, tired and thirsty, decide to buy the entire stock. They start drinking. Their guard down. The tension of the campaign temporarily forgotten in a haze of alcohol. Soon, a second group of Austrian soldiers, this time infantry, arrives at the river. They see the cavalry's impromptu party and demand their share of the schnapps. The Hussars refuse. They bought it! It's theirs! An argument breaks out. Insults are hurled, turning from a drunken squabble into a full-blown fistfight. In the chaos, a single shot is fired. Panic erupts. In the darkness and confusion, someone shouts, "Torchy! Torchy! The Turks! The Turks!" The terrified infantrymen, thinking they are under attack, scatter. They run back towards their own camp, spreading the panic like wildfire. The Hussars, now believing the infantry's retreat means the Ottomans are truly upon them, also mount their horses and gallop back in a frenzy. As these 2 disorganized groups charge back into the main Austrian encampment, the soldiers there are roused from their sleep by the sounds of shouting and gunfire. A German-speaking officer, trying to restore order, yells halt. Alte. To the Slavic-speaking soldiers in the army, halt sounds dangerously close to Allah. The Ottoman war cry. The nightmare scenario is complete. The entire camp believes it's under a massive, surprise Ottoman night attack. Different units, unable to communicate, begin firing at each other in the pitch-black darkness. Cavalry charges into infantry battalions. Artillerymen, seeing movement in the shadows, open fire on their own comrades. The vast Austrian army turns on itself, a self-consuming engine of terror and confusion. Emperor Joseph II is swept up in the chaos, knocked from his horse, and forced to hide in a ditch to escape the friendly fire. For hours, the slaughter continues until dawn breaks, revealing a horrifying scene. The battlefield is littered with Austrian dead and wounded. The enemy was never there. The great Austrian army had just fought and lost a battle against itself. 2 days later, the actual Ottoman army arrived at Karánsebes. They were stunned. They found a deserted camp and thousands of dead and wounded Austrian soldiers. They took the town without a fight, the victory handed to them by the phantom battle. The immediate consequences were devastating for the Austrians. The campaign stalled, and the self-inflicted losses were enormous. Estimates of the casualties vary wildly, from a few hundred to as many as 10,000. The emperor himself fell ill from the ordeal and would die a couple of years later. His ambitions of conquering the Ottomans in ruins. The story of Karánsebes became a legend. A cautionary tale of military incompetence, the ultimate friendly fire incident. But here's the twist, the hidden detail that changes everything. The first written account of this spectacular disaster doesn't appear until 40 years after it supposedly happened. The contemporary sources from 1788, including the emperor's own diary and official military reports, mention a panicked nighttime retreat and some friendly fire incidents, but nothing on the scale of a 10,000-men battle. They speak of confusion, of cavalry startling the infantry, and of a chaotic withdrawal. There was certainly friendly fire, and men were killed. But the epic drunken brawl that snowballed into a self-annihilating battle. That version of the story appears much, much later, embellished and exaggerated over time. One German historical journal in 1831 seems to be a key source that solidified the dramatic narrative we know today. Historians now believe the legend of Karánsebes is a massive exaggeration, a myth born from a kernel of truth, a confusing night retreat that was blown up into a sensational story of an army destroying itself. The multicultural nature of the army and the language barrier provided the perfect ingredients for a believable, if untrue, tale. So, the Battle of Karánsebes likely never happened as the legend tells it. It wasn't a drunken catastrophe. It was a real but much smaller incident of panic and friendly fire, magnified by decades of retelling. But the myth itself tells a powerful story. It reveals our fascination with epic failure and the absurdity of war. It shows how a good story, even a false one, can take on a life of its own, becoming more real in our collective memory than the complex, messy truth. The ghost of Karánsebes reminds us to question the histories we inherit, to look for the sources, and to understand that sometimes the most famous stories are just that. The truth is often quieter, but no less important. Thank you for joining us on this historical investigation. If you enjoy untangling the mysteries of the past, be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more stories that challenge what you think you know about history. See you next time!